Hi, welcome back to Shades of Love. Ashlee here, ready to read you some more of my story. Anyway, I don't know where to go with this intro other than I'm going to continue the story that I started reading already, and it is adult content, so 18 and older, please. Yeah, because it's a romance novel, and because some of the scenes and the language in it are adult content, big time, which means probably that I'll be demonetized or not monetized at all or whatever, but hey, hopefully you're enjoying the story. So anyway, if you like what you hear, you like what you see, and you want to continue to receive notifications, then give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell after you subscribe, because you need to subscribe first, right? And let me know in the comments section where you think the story should go or where it is going to go, and if you want to hear more of this kind of story in the future, because I'm continuously writing so I can read to you. So just give me an idea of what kind of stuff you want me to write, and we'll see if I can bring it to you. Anyway, we'll get on with today's story or chapter and just continue watching. Chapter 2 of School's Out by me, Miss Thomas. She knocked on the door and waited for his command to enter. She loved meeting Mr. Cooper for these mid-afternoon rendezvous. She looked forward to seeing his face, that seductive smile that would spread across his face whenever he saw her walk into his office, the hotel, or wherever their meeting would take place. That smile of his would send thrills of excitement soaring through her body and leave her weak with desire for whatever he had planned. "Come in," he hollered, and the sound of his voice caused butterflies to begin fluttering in her stomach. She slowly opened the door and peeked her head inside. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Cooper?" "Yes, come in, please, and shut the door behind you." He was standing behind the desk, and she could make out the telltale signs of an erection. Oh, he had plans for them, all right. She couldn't wait. She closed the door behind her and walked further into his office toward his desk. It was always at the desk, or that's where it started. It had become the primary tool, the master device in these games that they played. She could still remember the first time they were intimate here, about a month after she began working full-time after he hired her as the permanent replacement. 3 years ago. "Miss Thomas, do you know why I called you into my office this afternoon?" Mr. Cooper asked her as she stood just inside the room. She was nervously waiting for whatever punishment he would dole out. Whether it was time off or probation, she wasn't sure. All she knew was this: she was in trouble. It wasn't her fault. Although she was the one who should be responsible, the students getting into that fight was something that she should have been able to handle herself without raising her voice and yelling at them. Yelling at students was a big no-no, and she broke that rule. So she stood here now in the principal's office like a naughty schoolgirl, waiting to hear what was going to happen to her. "Yes, sir," because of the fight. She answered his question in a low voice, afraid to speak any louder. She knew the secretary was on the other side of the door, listening to whatever went on in the smaller room. "That is correct. You are aware that as a teacher of this school, you are responsible for maintaining self-control at all times, especially when it comes to handling a situation such as 2 students fighting." He folded his arms across his broad chest, stretching the silk material of his shirt across his defined biceps. He looked so damn good. "I'm aware, sir. I'm sorry," she replied. She wasn't sure how else to answer, because really there was no reason or excuse to her losing her temper. "I cannot let this slide, Miss Thomas. You have only been here a month. If it were any other teacher, I'd reprimand them. With you being new here, I'll have to place you on a 30-day probation. He stared at her hard. almost as if he were staring right into her soul. It scared her. It unnerved her. Most of all, it excited her. I understand, sir. Please come here, Miss Thomas. She had always been a naturally submissive person by nature. Teaching was the only outlet she had to attempt at being in control. In any other aspect of her life, she just couldn't break out of her shell enough to do it. She walked around toward his desk, shuffling her feet along the way, head down. Miss Thomas, were you ever spanked as a child? Her head flew up, and she made eye contact with him. What an odd question. But something told her that he wasn't asking out of a need or a want to hurt and humiliate her. No, he was asking for an entirely different reason altogether. He was asking because of the chemistry that they shared. She felt it when she interviewed for the job almost 2 months ago, and each day it grew stronger. That pull was just, it was intense. No, Mr. Cooper, I was not spanked as a child, she answered him. Part of her wanted to beg him to let her leave, but then another part of her wanted a taste of what a spanking would feel like as an adult. He dropped his hands and said, I do have to place you under probation, but I also had another idea for a punishment for you. He bent forward to sort through his top drawer. Yes, here we are, he said, proudly displaying a ruler. He closed his drawer and walked around the desk to stand in front of her. He slowly got closer and closer until there was only an inch between them. She could feel his hot breath on her lips when he spoke. I think it may be time to teach you a little control, a little discipline. Walk over to my desk, he said. She should probably walk away now, but she was just too aroused to do that. They had been flirting with each other since she walked into his office for that interview. A touch here, a look there, and it all led to this moment. She walked closer to his desk and stood waiting for what would come next. Lean forward, Miss Thomas, he told her. She leaned forward over his desk and placed her cheek on the desktop. Good. Now, I want you to lift your skirt. She looked at him, questioning him with her eyes. He merely nodded his head, so she did what he said. She didn't want to, though. She was embarrassed at the fact that her panties were so damp already, just from thinking about what he could be doing to her, what she wanted him to do to... Well, I guess you get the point. But that was precisely what he noted first. I see that you like being told what to do, don't you, Miss Thomas? She nodded her head yes, unable to speak. We have been teasing one another long enough, don't you think? He asked her as he stood there appraising her ass, which was on full display for his viewing pleasure. Yes, she answered him. It'd be too impolite to not answer, right? Well, I'm a man of action, and I think it's time to show you what all my flirting has been trying to tell you. He approached her until he was right behind her, and then he stopped. I'm going to do this because you want it. I'm going to do this because I want it. I'm going to do this because you deserve it and you crave it, right, Miss Thomas? Yes, sir. His hands reached out and touched and rubbed her ass cheeks. The right one first, then the left. His hands were warm and rough from work. Even with a desk job, his hands gave the impression of more manual labor of some kind. Your skin is very soft, Miss Thomas, and soon it will be hot. I'm going to use this. He held the ruler out for her to see before he added, and I'm going to give you the spanking you want. I want you to count each smack for me. Oh, okay, she answered. her voice quivering and stammering with excitement. Her body was so on edge, strung tightly with anticipation, that she could swear she was ready to come, without any touch from him at all, just his words. "Ready?" he asked her, as she replied by nodding her head. Her throat was starting to get dry from her heavy panting. He raised the ruler in the air, then came slicing through the air to make contact with her skin. She yelped at the sting. It hurt so badly that it took her breath away, but not so severely that she wanted him to stop. No. That pain quickly turned to pleasure. 1, she counted as he had commanded her to do. Another whistle as the ruler cut through the air, and then it made contact with her other ass cheek. "Ow!" she hollered, tears beginning to pool in her eyes, but still she didn't want it to end. Oh no, she wanted more. 2, she said. Then another came, and another, and even more until she counted to 7. Then his hand was on her sensitized skin, rubbing and soothing the warm welts. "You did well, Miss Thomas." She offered him a weak smile, too in shock to speak. That was the most painful, yet most pleasurable encounter she had ever had. "Are you ready for more? Because there is no way in hell I'm going to let you walk out of this office without me fucking you first." "Yes, please," she begged him. She needed and wanted that too. He undid his belt, unbuttoned, and then unzipped his pants, letting them fall around his ankles. Then he positioned himself behind her after covering himself with a condom. His fingers probed her sex, which was soaking wet. "Oh, this slickness is going to make it so easy for me to enter that hot pussy of yours," he said. And then he slammed into her. She was ready to come right then, but she held it back, wanting to lengthen this little encounter. He pulled out of her and then thrust back in, again and again, in and out, hard and fast. He didn't just have sex with her lying across his desk. Oh, no. He fucked her, and he fucked her good. Better than her husband ever did. And she couldn't get enough. She wrapped her hands behind her to grab his legs and pulled him in. Damn, it felt so good. And she needed to come. Back to the present day. "Hello, Earth to Miss Thomas. Have you heard anything I just said?" Mr. Cooper asked, laughing at her apparent lack of attention. Oh, damn. If he only knew what she had been thinking about just then. Her eyes wandered to his desk and then back to him. His laughter grew. "Are you wanting another punishment?" How did he know? For more videos like this, like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I upload the next video. And remember, today was just one chapter of your story.